Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this Blitz chess postmortem, a postmortem of my Blitz game number 417. I had the white pieces and kicked off with e4. I'm still hoping to get a bishop's opening, but my opponent, Goliath in this case, he always plays the Nimzovich opening. I had forgotten that, but it was kind of funny because my previous opponent, who was someone else, also played the Nimzovich opening. A bit of a rare opening and not considered that great, although you can see the evaluation isn't so horrible. So d4 is a normal move here that I play. Now it looks like knight f3 is the top choice in the database, but I think d4 makes a lot of sense. You have the ability to grab some space in the center, and black can counter with either d5 or e5, depending on what setup he wants to go for. And but you have more space in the center. So this move, knight to c6, the characteristic move of the Nimzovich defense, it doesn't do a whole lot, although it does stop the immediate e5 by controlling that square, but it doesn't stop you from pushing d4, so you probably should do that. Anyway, that's how I would normally play. But I wanted to play the bishop's opening, so I played the bishop out to c4, and he obliged by playing e5. So now we've transposed into a line of the bishop's opening that I looked at when I did that video on the openings, although the line I looked at was knight f3. In this case, I played the move d3, which has, knight c3. The line I looked at was knight c3. Knight f3, by the way, the top choice here, just transposes into an Italian game, so that's why I'm not playing that move. The idea is to keep the f-pawn free, so you have the potential of playing that at some later date. So knight c3 is the line I looked at in the opening video, but d3 has similar ideas. You're just avoiding blocking the f-pawn. I'm going to play knight to c3 soon. And so my opponent replied here with bishop e7. This is an okay way to play. See, there's still some slight edge to white here. The reason why this isn't particularly the best way to play right here, if you look at after bishop c4, black could do what my opponent did in the last game. He can build up with e6 and d5 and gain a tempo on that bishop, so it's not so great. It also looks like knight f6 immediately is a good move. But after e5, we get into the bishop's opening, which does give a slight edge to white, typical kind of opening advantage. So I get this move f4 in, and I even played it before playing knight to c3, just played this move d3 to shore up the center and open a line for the bishop to control the f4 square. Now my opponent could play bishop to h4 check. I guess in this case I could even block with g3. I was thinking I had to play king f1 during the game, but it looks like g3 is a perfectly reasonable response. Unlike the king's gambit, black hasn't taken here, so this move g3 is available, and there's no fancy checks along this line or anything tricky. So the bishop just has to retreat. So I don't really have to worry about bishop to h4 check. My opponent just played knight f6, and I develop. So we keep I keep the usual kind of slight opening advantage throughout this section, which is just normal development, nothing special going on. And then he finally decides to take. No, I finally decide to take. So maybe it's a bit premature. I still haven't developed my knight to c3, so it's always a bit questionable when you start opening things up before you completed your development. But I felt like it might be a good time to open this up. You see, actually, the advantage shifts to black's favor, so not necessarily the best way to play here, but still, okay, it's in the range of even. Bishop g5. He gets nice squares for his pieces. It's my turn. Bishop g5. Bishop g5 is an actual mistake. So, yeah, there's a tactic after bishop g5. He can play knight takes e4. Let's check out that tactic. Bishop g5, knight takes e4. Typical kind of tactic. This bishop is hanging. And if I take here, what's the answer? Queen takes. I take here. Queen c5 check. Okay, so that's the tactic. Yeah, so that the bishop is a bit loose here because I had to take back with the pawn. So he's picked up a pawn this way. So this tactic was not so simple. Not so simple as I thought at first. So it's not just about getting a discovered attack on the bishop. It's also about taking advantage of the loose knight. And notice this wouldn't have been possible if my knight had already been developed to c3, because I would have had the opportunity to take back with a knight here. And so there wouldn't be any tactic in this situation. He'd just be losing a piece. So this whole tactic depends on the fact that I haven't developed my knight. So that's an illustration, I guess, a good example of why you develop your pieces before you start opening things up in the center. You can fall victim to these tactics pretty easily. So yeah, this tactic is a little bit deep though. So from this point you have to see knight takes, bishop takes, queen takes, and then if you want to get the knight and not just be a pawn down, you have to take it, and then there's queen here, check, picking up the bishop. So he just wins a pawn. Cute tactic. Okay, he didn't see that either. I don't know if I would have spotted that. Bishop to g4. Even in a slow game, you can easily miss things like that. But actually, that's something to look for. This bishop hanging out here is a bit loose if this pawn is underprotected on e4. Okay, bishop g4 was played, and I played queen e1. And now looks like there's another tactic here starting with bishop takes f3. Let's check this out. Bishop takes f3. Why not just rook takes? And knight to d4. Rook drops back to f2. Knight to g4. Oh, knight to g4 is a double attack, hitting this guy and hitting the bishop. So bishop takes, queen takes, and what's the idea here? Rook d2. So is it the engine is saying my rook has no good place. Now black hasn't won any material here. I have 2 pieces and 2 rooks, and he has 2 pieces and 2 rooks. Maybe this is just about activity here. His knights are very threatening. So if I just drop my rook back to a safe square, he's got knight takes c2. Okay, that's one thing that's hanging. So rook to d2 to defend c2. Sorry, rook to e2 is not good. Rook to d2. And then what? Queen g5. Huh. So that's interesting. So it's not winning material, it's just gaining a whole bunch of activity for black's pieces. His pieces are all kind of swarming in. Also, well, these tactical openings are tricky. Interesting. So it's just starting with bishop takes f3 and just gaining a lot of activity for his knights, because whatever piece takes back here is subject to tempo gaining jumps by the knight, hitting this square and also hitting this square on c2. So interesting ideas in this position for black. Okay, my opponent played h6, and I just dropped back, still allowing this tactic. He plays a6 here, and now I go knight to c3, finally getting my last piece developed. Still there's this bishop takes f3 tactic here. Interesting. So my opponent played b5 here, kicking the bishop. I dropped back, and now that would have been the other way to secure my position. If my bishop had gone back to b3 voluntarily without having been kicked, it would have protected the c2 square and eliminated a lot of these tactics with knight to d4. Okay, my opponent plays bishop back to d6. Cancel that. This bishop to d6. Okay, defending his e-pawn and preparing, I guess, a move like knight d4. And I go knight e2. I wanted to try and move my pieces towards the king side. I'm kind of set up looking in that direction. He goes knight e7, bringing a piece over for defense. Knight g3. So these now the tactics have disappeared that black had in this position. Looks like white is doing okay. Back to the normal slight opening edge. Okay, c6, h3 kicking the bishop. The bishop retreats to d7, and now knight h4. And I'm getting a lot of good activity for my pieces. So I managed to push his pieces back. I've got these knights threatening to hop into the f5 square, and he can't easily keep me out with the move g6 because the h6 pawn is loose. So this is looking pretty good for white right here. I wanted to erase that arrow. Okay, so anyway, he played king h7 to defend the h6 pawn, And I played knight h5 anyway, but already there's a tactic with rook takes f6, so now the tactics are on the other side. So let's check this one out. Rook takes f6, and if he takes back, queen to e3, setting up for this attack on the h-pawn, which looks difficult to meet. Bishop to c5 is a recommended defense, which is just giving up that pawn. Oh, bishop to c5 is a skewer, so it doesn't give up the pawn. It gives up the bishop, though. That is a defense, but not a very palatable defense. So he's in big trouble after rook takes f6. So I had a similar idea, but well, you'll see it in the game. Knight h5 first. I still was thinking about this f5 square, which is often a good place to put a knight, especially when the pawns are on g7 and h6 like this. The knight's attacking both of them and setting up potential sacrifices over here. So bishop to c7. The knight was hitting the bishop and it drops back. And now the idea is here. I play knight takes h6. So this is a tactic I did spot. G takes h6 and rook takes f6. Very typical kind of thing. You undermine by removing a defender of the knight sitting on f6, and the open f file often facilitates these kind of tactics, enables them. Okay, so knight to g6, bringing knight up for defense. And let's see. The best way of proceeding here is knight to h5, continuing to pile on. But when I cash out a little bit, I grab a pawn here and I just go up material. But this was not best play. If we back up, let's go ahead and show how this should be played. Knight to h5, just bringing more pieces into the attack here, not cashing out too soon. Bishop to e6 apparently is a good defense. Yeah, blocking the diagonal. Excuse me. Blocking this diagonal and defending the f7 pawn. And now queen to g3, piling up this way, possibly threatening to take here. Bishop takes b3. He takes. And then queen or king. Let's say the king stays where it is. Maybe queen. It's hard to suggest a move here. Queen to e7 perhaps. Yeah, so it stays looking at the knight. And then what's my breakthrough move? Still more pieces. So bringing up all my force. Well, Morphy would be proud. That was one of his rules. Bring all your force into the game. Rook a to d8. Okay. And then when do I finally break through here? Rook takes c6. Yeah, I thought eventually there would be something. Rook takes c6. No, he's not taking there. He's taking here. How about, let's back up. Can I break through more forcefully? Can I just clear this by playing here? F takes g6. This is not good. Huh. Okay, so rook takes here. Well, it does clear the f6 square for the knight. And rook to d6, defending. It's funny, the evaluation keeps going up and up, but this is a really long variation, and I still haven't broken through. So, okay, now knight f6 check is looking strong. Knight f6 check. And if rook takes... Ah, okay, the knight is defended on f6. He can't take it. So the king goes to h8. And from the king on h8, rook takes d6 now. Queen takes. And bishop takes h6. Yes, I've driven the king back from defense, and now he really is crumbling on the king side. And let's see, material. Material, you know, in terms of pieces, it's still 2 pieces and a rook and a queen. But I've removed the pawn cover, and looks like the attack is continuing. But that was, look at that sequence. That was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 moves ahead to really realize that advantage. So, so I guess in these circumstances, maybe it's understandable. I just cashed out here, grabbed a pawn. But, well, technically not the best way to play, but should still be winning. Bishop takes. And he goes queen h4, coming over here to defend. And now bishop takes g6 check is the best way to continue. Let's see, what did I play instead? I played queen e3. I thought that was logical, but he has some defenses here. Knight f4 blocks this diagonal. And so my advantage is now just a pawn. So I continue with knight f5, kicking his queen, and interfering with the coordination of his pieces, so that he's not attacking or sacrificing on h3 here. I have to worry about that. So he took on f5. I took back. And then he played rook b8. And so here's where I'm about to make a horrible blunder. So this is funny. When he played the move rook b8, I said, what's that move about? So if you want a tactical quiz, what is rook b8 preparing? What is black's next move in this position? Okay, pause the video if you want time to think about it. I'm going to give the answer away. Rook b8 threatens bishop b6, skewering the queen and the king. And I didn't even see that. I played rook f1. He played bishop b6. And he won the game. So anyway, until the ending, I had a pretty good attack going. It showed, I thought this game was a pretty good illustration of some of the attacking possibilities in the bishop's opening, and also some of the downsides, so that I didn't get my knight to c3 soon enough. So early on, black had chances, and then after I completed my development, then my attack looked pretty strong on the king side. So if I had played that correctly, I really should have won this game from that point. But anyway, you gotta watch out for those tactical shots. That's a pretty strong move there. Okay, so that's how the game ended. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you again soon. Bye.